Welcome to Crime Stoppers of El Paso Crime Files. Join me as we take a look at the murder case of 63-year-old Chester Charles Woodward, better known as Chet, a man that was well liked by many patrons of the Rock and Cigar Bar in the Current Place area of El Paso.
We got to know each other very well. I got to know a lot of his history, him coming from the back east in New Jersey and growing up in the Philadelphia area.
Chet was well known in that area. He was a former musician, so a lot of people in the music scene knew him. A lot of the bar owners and other patrons knew him. From all accounts we have, he was a guy that a lot of people liked.
He was a great musician, and one of the things that I had told him, I said, well, you know, if you're a good musician, maybe you should go to where there's some music that would help your career. You know, maybe Dallas or Austin or Nashville or Memphis. I said you could do $100 gigs all day long out there in a place like Memphis, Tennessee. And he never did. He loved El Paso. He was very well versed in knowing a lot of the musicians and a lot of the roots of the blues and the roots of rock and roll and things like that. So his conversation, when you would talk to him about music, was always interesting. He'll tell you a story about touring. He toured over through Russia, and he's been all over the world. And he toured with some pretty big names.
He was patronizing the Rock and Cigar Bar shortly before the incident happened.
And Chet and I, and there was probably two others that we closed the bar up, and before we went over to the funeral home, we decided to have a couple beers, and we sat there and we cranked up the music. We listened to some sorry. Didn't expect that.
Just before 11 p.m., officers from the West Side Regional Command were dispatched to the intersection of Stanton and Cincinnati, reference the subject down. A passerby had observed a male subject lying in the street right next to the bench for the streetcar stop.
That day, we were all in there and kind of doing this, and getting ready to go to a funeral. And it's just when when I heard that Chet had died, or they thought it was Chet on the street, and I was over at the other bar, I thought, nah, that's too much for someone, for God to throw at you all at once.
He was transported to University Medical Center, but he did not survive his injuries.
He never would get intoxicated. He would pretty much just have just a few beers all throughout the day and just sit there and listen to the music and have conversations with people, and people really liked him and interacted with him well.
We know that there's no altercation inside that establishment, and that he left to get back on the streetcar stop as he would normally do. He normally took that streetcar back. By the last stop, he would always get back on it because it stops, I think, at 11 or 12. So routinely, he'd be back on that bus stop.
He was working in our back parking lot and collecting a lot of money. And I kept telling him, please put that away. Someone will kill you for $10, let alone what you have in your pocket.
Some people thought he was homeless. He technically wasn't homeless, but he would just stay with different people from time to time.
But every time he'd buy a beer, he'd pull out a giant wad of cash to pay for his $2 beer. And he was very proud of it. He'd smile, and everyone would go, "Oh wow, look at that! Look at that!" And so he was not bashful about letting people know that he was starting to do well.
We know that witnesses that may have been there likely left before we arrived on scene to begin our investigation.
I hope somebody either has some information or somebody has a conscience.
We have security video that shows a subject that was in the vicinity at the same time and location as the incident took place. We believe that subject would have information that could help us solve this case.
I know the family's very was very hurt about this. They all the family lives up in New Jersey, and we do communicate with the sisters, and I know that they're also really anxious to hopefully be able to put closure in this for this part of this really bad chapter in their lives.
We're asking the public, if there's anybody out there that was in that intersection during that night, if they could please come forward with anything they may have seen, even if they believe it's something minor. We'd still like to talk to them and piece this thing together.
Thank you for watching, and remember, if you have any information on the murder of Chet, you will remain anonymous by calling Crime Stoppers of El Paso at 566-8477 or via our website, crimestoppersofElPaso.org.